Alright, so Unit 10 is about 2 and 3D shapes and the relationship between them, but we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on the 3D shapes. So some of the vocabulary that we'll use this unit. The first term is called a polyhedron. And what that shape or that term is, it's that solid that is bounded by polygons to enclose a region. So if we look at the picture over here, um, this whole shape is a polyhedron. We have hexagons here, and then we have rectangles connecting the two hexagons. So all that encloses a region of space. So that's what a polyhedron is. It's just a fancy math word. Now, the faces of these polyhedron are all polygons. So over here, our faces, we have a rectangular face right here, that's a polygon. We have a face that's a hexagon right here, so those are all faces. Any side essentially is a face. So these are faces. Now, an edge is where two of these faces meet. So it's the intersection of two faces. So where these two sides meet, that is an edge. So you can think about this part right here. That is an edge because our faces are meeting. And then a vertex, that is where three or more edges meet. So think about corners. Like this is a vertex right here. And then finally, a base is a polygon that is used to name the polyhedron. So this is a hexagonal polyhedron because our bases are hexagons. So today we're just going to be classifying them by names, by their bases. Alright, let's look down at classifying. So in polyhedras we have pyramids and we have prisms. And the biggest difference between them is the number of bases. So you see a pyramid just has one base, whereas a prism has two bases. So that's the difference of those. It is important to know that the bases of a prism are not always the top and bottom. The two bases are always parallel. So the two bases should never touch each other. And then the other faces are parallelograms. So in this example up here, we have our two parallel bases that are pentagons, and you see the other faces are rectangles, which are types of parallelograms. So the name of this one would be a pentagonal prism, because the bases are pentagons, and those two pentagonal bases are parallel to each other. Now when we talk about pyramids, um, the faces of pyramids are triangles. So this pyramid here, we have a rectangular base, and our other faces here are triangles. So we would call this a quadrilateral pyramid. Okay. So then what about over here where we have things that are not polyhedra? Well, think about it. Yes, this cone has a base, but we don't have any faces of it. We don't have any other sides here. It's just this cone that's wrapped around. Okay, a sphere, there are no bases in a sphere, so you really have no two bases that are parallel to each other, and you don't have any faces that are triangles or parallelograms. And this last one is a cylinder. And yes, a cylinder does have two bases, and yes, those two bases are parallel, but you don't have a parallelogram connecting them. You have this round, this round thing that connects them. All right, let's look at example 1. We're going to tell whether each one is a polyhedron, and then name it, and then classify it by how many different faces. So in this one, our base is a hexagon, and our faces are triangles. So we're going to call this a hexagonal pyramid. We have 6 triangular faces. All right, the second one, we see this and it kind of looks like a tissue box, and you're thinking, well, how do you know which one is the base? Because you have, this bottom and this top are parallel to each other. You also have the sides over here that are parallel to each other. It doesn't matter as long as the two bases are parallel to each other. So yes, you could choose the top and bottom, or you can even choose the front and back. I'm going to choose these two just to make things a little bit different. So this is our base, and this is another base. All right, now the bases are rectangles, and we have parallelograms here that connect the two bases. So we call this a rectangular prism. And what we have here, we have 4 rectangular faces. And then the last one, this one has this little half cylinder on top, right here. So that makes this not a polyhedron at all, because we don't have a face up here. This is not really a face. So this is not a polyhedron. So what I want you to do now is pause the video and try the next 3 problems, and then once you're done, unpause the video and see if we get the same answers. So go ahead and pause the video. Alright, check your answers and see if you got what I got. Okay, let's look at the next page. We're going to learn about something called a cross-section. So the cross-section is the intersection of a plane and your um, polyhedron or your three-dimensional shape. Okay, so here we have a pyramid, and we have this plane here that is intersecting that pyramid, and that intersection is right here. This is called your cross section, this smaller triangle right here. So let's look at example number 2 and identify the cross section formed. So here the cross section formed is a circle. The cross section formed here is a pentagon. The cross section formed over here is a rectangle. And then the last one, the cross section formed here is a pentagon. So we look at the intersection of our plane and our three-dimensional solid. So look at the ones below, these 4 down here, and try those and see what you get. So go ahead and pause the video and try them. Alright, let's see what you got. So these are the answers I came up with. For this third one, if you said square, I can see why you would say that, because you may think, well, all of these sides look like they'd be about the same. But because we don't have any tick marks anywhere, I chose to go with rectangle, so just be careful when you're dealing with something like that. Alright, now let's look down here. What do you notice about the shape of the cross section when it is parallel to the base of the solid? So it's easy to see in this cylinder over here that we have our base here, this is a circle. We have this base as a circle, and our cross section is also a circle that's the same size as our base. And here is our plane. Our plane is parallel to the 2 bases, so it's the same shape. Now, not necessarily the same size all the time, because you look at this pyramid one, yet the base is also a rectangle, and the cross section is a rectangle, but clearly the cross section is smaller than the base. So what we'll notice is that the cross section is the same shape as the base. Alright, now let's look at example number 3. Identify the three-dimensional object formed by rotating the two-dimensional object about the line. So we have this shape here, this rectangle, and you're rotating it over the y-axis, so it's going to rotate like this. And it's going to come over here and extend. So if you can picture this shape spinning around the y-axis, it will give us a cylinder. And if we look at this shape over here, this triangle, and it's rotating over the x-axis, okay, so here's the x-axis, it's going to be rotating, and when that happens, it's going to go and look something like this, and as it rotates, it will become the shape of a cone. And then the last one, we have this circle, and you're rotating the circle over this line that's already inside the circle. So if you think that this is spinning around, you're going to get a sphere. All right, the last example. So we're going to name the polyhedron again, and then classify and list the faces. So these are a little bit different than the ones on the previous page. The bases here, especially in this example, the bases are not on the top and bottom. The bases are on the sides. You say, well, how come those are the bases? Remember, the definition of the polyhedron, or the prism, is that you have parallel bases and that the bases are connected by parallelograms. So you see we have parallelograms that connect the two bases that I drew in pink. So the two bases are the hexagon, so this is a hexagonal prism, and we have 6 rectangular faces. Right, now this one we have a pentagon on the bottom, and the faces here are all triangles. So that means that this is a pentagonal pyramid. And then the last one, your bases are these triangles over here on the sides, and your faces are these rectangles. So this is a triangular prism. Okay, so that's all that we're doing in this lesson. It's full of definitions and terms, so just make sure you know the differences between them and that you know how to use them. So thanks for watching. Hit the like button and make sure you subscribe. Bye.